Hi, George here. And the two most important things to learn inside of Photoshop Elements and really inside of any good photo program is how to use layers and also how to make selections. Now, in this video, I'll be talking just about layers. Let's just get rid of that selections right there. There we go. So I'll talk about layers and I'll give you a good overview on what you can do with layers and why they're so important. All right, let's start this from the very beginning. I'm just going to close this down. There we go. And I'll just open up a photo. And here we go. Now in this video, I'll be talking about just this one topic, layers. Then I'll be doing another video about selections, but that just covers just a little bit of this whole program here, the whole Photoshop Elements program. If you're looking for in-depth discussions of everything, all the tools, all the menus, all the panels, all that stuff, I have that in my complete training course for Photoshop Elements. It's a video-based course. If you prefer text-based training and you don't really want a step-by-step course, you prefer to have something which you can just kind of jump around, answer the questions that you want, that's why I built my HTG Photo Coach program. And I'll put links for both of those at the top of the description. Okay, back to our project here. So this is what you would normally see. You open up one picture, and here you go. You have your picture in the middle of your workspace. On the right-hand side, I have the layers showing over here. Now, you may or may not be seeing layers. First, make sure you're in the advanced mode up here. In earlier versions of Photoshop Elements, it said enhanced. So either enhanced or advanced, same thing. Go up to Window. You'll find layers right here, or use the F11 key to open up your layers, or down here at the bottom right side, we have a layers button right there. Any one of those will open up that layers panel. Okay, so there we go. We have a panel. We have one layer on here. Now, the first layer is always called background. By default, this has a little bit of locking on it. You see over here, the little lock right there, but it's showing locks and this kind of a checkerboard thing, like a chessboard. That means that the transparent parts of the layer are locked. So I can't move this around because we have that locked on there. You could convert this to a regular layer. Just double click on this. It'll then say layer 0 and it gets rid of the lock at the same time. I prefer keeping these layers on here. I'll right click on the name and I'll duplicate the layer, choose OK. And then I'll just hide that layer. The duplicated layer comes in, says background copy, and there's no lock on that one. And the reason why I like doing this is in case I mess things up, I can go back to my original right here and it's right inside the same file, making it very easy. Now, one thing about these files, when you're working with layers, and this is pretty much any Photoshop Elements file you'll be working with, you're going to be ending up with some layers in here. This is going to save as a Photoshop Elements file. It's the .psd file format, same format that the Adobe Photoshop program uses, same format that can be opened up in other programs like Affinity Photo can open up PSD files. And what that does is it retains the layers over here, so you can still work on your layers. Now, if you need to save this out to a specific format like a PNG or something, go up here to File, come down to Save As, and then in the Save As dialog box right down here, you have your PNG right there. Here's your TIFF file format. There's your JPEG. There's your GIF format. So all of your main formats are right in here. And this is what I always do myself is I'll do my whole project here, save it as a PSD file, and then if I need it in a different format, I'll then convert that by doing a Save As to the other format. That way I keep my PSD file with all my layers and all my work over here, so I can always go back later and make adjustments or changes if I need to. That's exactly how I handle more complicated projects like my YouTube video thumbnails, especially the thumbnails for my gaming channel, where there are a lot of layers I'm using in each thumbnail. Okay, so we have our layer in here. We have our duplicated layer. Once it's on here, you can actually move your image around on that layer. So you have the image, that's the contents of the layer, and the layer is kind of a container for those contents. This checkerboard pattern back here, this just represents transparency. So there's transparency back there. If I showed this background layer again, you see it's now showing in behind this layer here. So that area out there is transparent on this layer. When you move things around, they should tend to snap into place. If you're really close, like right here, it'll just kind of snap up to that side. There it is. You saw it just kind of snap here, then snap up there. That's controlled up here by the View menu. And right here, Snap To. Snaps to guides, the grid, layers, and document bounds. I just snap to the document bounds right there. When it says snap to layers, what it actually means is snap to contents on a layer. And that occasionally can be very useful. Okay, so we have our photo layer in here. We can make duplicates of our photo layer. One of the reasons, again, why you want to do that is if you make changes to this. Let's go up here. If we go up to the Enhance menu and come down here to our adjustments, here's our Adjust Lighting in here. Here's our Adjust Color. If I do any of these things, it's going to be a permanent change on that one layer unless I back up several steps using the undo command. Let's just change our levels in here. Doesn't really need it, but I'll go ahead and do it. Let's say we'd like the image up this way. Bring in some blacks like that. Bring our whites in. I've now dramatically increased the contrast of this image. If I choose OK, notice how I no longer have those controls up here. I've just permanently changed this image. I like it, but it's been permanently changed. If I had messed that up, I would have two options. One, go up here to Edit and Undo Levels and just back up that step, or use the Control-Z keyboard shortcut to back up out of that step, which is fine when you just did it. But if you've done several things, you may have to undo things you want to keep to be able to change things that you don't want to have happen. So the other option then is just to get rid of this layer and go back to the original right here, which is why we saved that. Now, if this happens to you, if you mess up on a layer, I recommend that you just delete that layer, hit the trash can up here, hit the yes, that's gone. Come back down here, right-click again, and duplicate that layer again. So you're once again working on a backup or duplicated layer. Now, a better way to work with these kind of controls so you don't mess things up like that is to use adjustment layers. There are special kinds of layers up here. You find them under the Layer menu. Right down here, Adjustment Layers. And you have your most used options right here. Levels, brightness, contrast, hue, saturation, gradient map, photo filter, invert, threshold, and posterize. Let's do our levels again. And in here, I can actually link this to just one layer or let it act on all layers under that. I'll just link it to one layer. Choose OK. Brings up the same kind of control that we just looked at, except this time the control is on its own layer right here. I'll go ahead and I'll bring in my adjustments here. I won't go quite as crazy this time on that. There we go, a bit more contrasty. Looks a bit brighter. Now the nice thing about doing it this way, by using an adjustment layer, is that I can show or hide that layer right here, which means if I need to, I can delete this or I can even change this. Double click on that icon right here. It brings back up that control. I can then come back in and make different adjustments to it. So putting your adjustment as an adjustment layer is much better than going up here to the enhanced and using your options in here, because the adjustment layer allows you to redo your adjustments at any time. I can come back and do this at, tomorrow or the day after, or come back a year from now and come back and readjust my adjustments. So using the adjustment layers is a great way to use layers. Another kind of layer up here in the layer menu is a fill layer. We have solid color, gradients, and patterns. Let's just do a gradient. Choose OK. And it applies a gradient right onto your image, just like that. There are a lot of gradients in here you can choose from. One I use a lot is this one here, the violet to orange. I'll show you why in just a second. But that comes in as its own layer. I can show or hide that effect right here. And because it's on its own layer, I can come in and actually adjust the transparency of that so you can kind of see through that layer. That sometimes is nice if you want to have a background. It's a fun way to do that. Or we can come over here and use what are called blend modes. There are a lot of blend modes in here. Normal is the one that you normally look at. We can come down and look at a lot of these. Now, if I use the wheel on my mouse, I can scroll down on these. And what these are doing is using different techniques to blend this layer with the layers underneath. And sometimes you can get some really nice special effects this way. Just scroll down here a little bit. Like overlay is a real nice one. This particular color gradient, which again is a purple to orange basically. And this brings in a lot of bright colors. The purples tend to go into your darker areas and the oranges go into your lighter areas. So it adds a bit more contrast and also some more color. It's a great way to brighten up a dull picture without doing a whole lot of work to it. It's a bit limited, of course, because of those specific colors, but it is a fast way to brighten up an image. So here's before and here's after with that color toning applied to that and luminosity. So lots of interesting options in here you can use. And I'll occasionally use those blend modes for some special effects. And again, the blend modes apply to the particular layer that you're on. You also can use blend modes in conjunction with opacity, so you can control the amount of the blend mode that's being worked on. So you can come in here and back off of it on your blend mode if you want to, so you have a control here for controlling how much the blend mode is being used. Okay, another kind of layer that we have in here is a type layer. Over here to the type tool. I'll just click in the middle someplace. Now, newer versions of Photoshop Elements automatically places some text in here. When you do that, it just helps you to choose your typeface, choose your type size, things like that. I can come here and change my type size. So it allows you to just begin to work with your text. Double click to select that. Let's change this over here to a white color. A lot of things you can do with text. Just type in something here. Some text. There we go. But this comes in on its own layer, as you can see right up here. Now, some things cannot work on text layers. There are filters up here, and filters can do a lot of stuff on a lot of things, but filters won't work on text layers. If I come in here and go for a Gaussian blur, Notice here, it would allow me to do this. It gives me an option. I can convert to a smart object or rasterize this, but it won't work on the regular text all by itself. Another kind of layer which will not work with filters directly is a shape layer. Come over here, left-hand side, we have a lot of shapes in here. Standard ones are the ellipse. I'll just put an ellipse right like that. There we go. Let's choose a different color, something kind of bright. There it is. So here's our shape. And this shows you something else about layers. They're in a stacking order over here, right-hand side. What's on the top here is on the top over in here. What's on the bottom is on the bottom. So right now, my gradient fill is below the text. You can see that, and it's above the photographs, so you can't see the photographs. If I take my layer over here, I can actually pull a layer around like this. I can pull it down lower, so it's now below that layer. It's no longer being seen. If I pull it above that gradient, it's above the gradient, and it's below that text, so it's now in behind the text. So we have this stacking order. Also notice that here's this kind of little funny icon right here. That means that this layer is a smart object layer, protecting that layer from being worked on too much. So it gives you some control and some protection. Basically, both of these two layers here are a type of vector layer, and filters only work on graphic layers, not vector layers. Now, if you need to do something on your text in here as a filter, to say I wanted to blur this out, let's just right-click on this, duplicate that, choose OK. That gives me a copy, just like I did before, so I can now protect my text layer, and then I'll work on my copy of this. So we're beginning to build up a lot of layers, as you can see in here, but that's very, very useful. Let's right-click on this and simplify layer. Notice how we now have this kind of a checkerboard pattern over here, and it no longer says T. It lets me know that this is now a graphic layer. So I can come up here to my filters. For instance, I can use my blur filter here, my Gaussian blur filter, and I can actually blur out that text. So I have that ability to work with filters again. Because it's no longer a text layer, I can't take my type tool and I can't select that. It's no longer text. So if I wanted to go back and change what it says, I come down here, come down to my type layer, retype it here, reduplicate that again, and then work with my filters on the duplicated layer. You can do the same kind of thing with the shape layer. Right-click on this, duplicate the layer, choose OK, hide the original. Notice the icon again here. Right-click, simplify layer. The icon goes away, and now I can apply filters to this. Go up here to filters, come back to that blur filter again, Gaussian blur, and I can add a soft edge. But I can do that because it's now just a graphic layer. So all different kinds of layers in here. There are more layers that you can get to. You find that down here, it says graphics, click on this. And the top option here is backgrounds. And all of these will come in as layers. Now these come in by replacing the existing background layer. This is the main reason I wanted to show this to you. Because right now we have our backup copy as the background layer. So if you wanted to use one of those new backgrounds, what I recommend is right-clicking on this, duplicate that again, hide that one. This is now our backup. Now you can rename what it says here. Double click on the name. You can rename this. Also rename this backup. So this is now my protected image. So if I come down here to graphics, let's choose a background. Here's some kind of just nice clouds and greenery and so forth. Let's go back over here to layers. They changed that photo over to this new background. And that's why I made that copy up here. So using layers to protect something that you want to save for later, in case you need to go back to it, is a great way to use layers. Now to see this, I'll have to hide what's above it. Let's just hide that, and I'll hide that dog. And here's that new background. Let's hide this, bring my text back up again. Now, because the graphics, the backgrounds from the graphics, change the actual layer, if you want to change this to something else, if you think this is okay, but you want to try a few things, what I recommend here is to make a copy. Right-click, duplicate layer, choose OK, hide that one, leave the background alone, come back down here to graphics. Let's choose something else. Let's find something a bit more vibrant maybe in here. Maybe a baseball field. I'm kind of going with greens right now because today is St. Patrick's Day, so I'm going with green stuff. But there we go. Baseball diamond, back to our layers, and there it is. If I wanted to do something else, I come back in here and make a copy of that one and then do more backgrounds. By doing this, I can come in here and take a look at this and say, okay, I like this one better, or I like this one better, or I prefer the dog background. So it gives you some flexibility. Now, once you have gone through your project and you know what you want to have, you can get rid of layers that you don't want. Just click on your layer, go up here to the trash can, hit the trash can, choose yes, and you can then delete that layer that you're no longer using. So you can take these and actually place these layers into groups. I'll hold the shift key down, select both of those two layers. Click on this button right here. This is a layer group. It now puts both of those into that group, and you can use this to help you organize your workspace if you begin to have too many layers in here. You also can rename this, double click on that, Let's type in text like this. There we go. And it allows you some organizational ability in here. A couple more last little things here on this basic discussion of layers. You go here, upper right-hand corner, these three dots, click on that. A lot of options in here, new layer, duplicate, group, delete group, hidden layers, and so forth. You can delete hidden layers right here. Just removes all your hidden layers if you want to. Easy way to clean things up. Rename layers, simplify layers. Things we've already seen. But down below at the bottom here, we have panel options. And the one thing in here that is useful is that you can change the size of your thumbnail. I have the largest size thumbnail right now. If I needed to have some more space in here, if I wanted to have more layers showing, I'll just come down to the next lower size, choose OK. The thumbnails are now smaller, but I have more layers showing. So if you have a very complex project, you can show more layers by changing that thumbnail size. Normally that isn't a problem for me. I just leave mine at the largest setting in here. You also can right click on a layer and then come down here and we have different colors you can apply to this. Let's just apply an orange on this. And it puts an orange coloration over here. Again, this is just an organizational tool for you. So you can color code your layers depending upon how you're using those layers. Just a cute little trick. Now this thing over here, this is a layer mask, which allows you to show part of what's on a layer. I'll just do a little quick demonstration here, but I'll do a whole video later on just doing a layer mask. That's its own big discussion. But the way layer masks work is that if it's white, it shows something. If it's black, it hides it. Let's just go up here to the rectangular marquee. I'll come down and change this to an elliptical marquee. And let's draw an ellipse around the dog, just like that. Now the dog area is selected. Make sure you're on the layer mask side. Notice this light blue outline in here. That's the layer mask side. Double click over here. You're not on the layer mask. Double click over here. You are on the layer mask. Let's show that layer. Here we go. I'll fill it with black. This effect here, this gradient is being hidden from the area that's in black. So basically I'm cutting a hole through this layer with the layer mask and showing what's underneath that layer mask. And then Control D to deselect. Even if you're just working on a simple photo layer and photo adjustments, working with layers as backups and safeties is a great habit to get into. It gives you a lot more freedom and flexibility. Now, again, if you found this video useful, you like these kind of in-depth discussions of different tools or different techniques, this is how my complete training course is designed. And I go through the whole program this way. I'll put a link for that at the top of the description. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that thumbs up. And if you want to see more of this kind of video, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of my videos coming up. And I'll see you next time.